Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic Online Community Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Tom LaPilly. We also have Randy Buehler in the red zone. Now, this is a Khans of Tarkir pre-release. For those of you just tuning in, we've got a little bit of a week before early look at Khans. It's pretty exciting stuff. We could see these cards in action significantly ahead of time. Our two semifinalists that we're going to be watching for this round, Bjorn Andreasen and standard favorite format, kind of right down the middle there. SvenskaMagic.com founder and also MTGquiz.com, so he's a web guy. On the other side of the table, though, Tom Ross, the boss. One-on-one booster draft is his format of choice, so the hardest of cores here. And he's got a Pro Tour top 8, 3 GP top 8s. He's won 2 Star City Games Open invitations in a row, and he's a streamer as well.
Yeah, those 2 Star City Games invitational wins are kind of shocking to me. That feels like a thing that one human should not be able to do, but he certainly did it.
I tend to agree with you. All right, and we are underway here. So players have kept, now let's take a look at a bigger picture on what these players are doing. So Bjorn Andreasen, he's on Mardu.
He sure is.
So red, black, white, and it seems to be an aggressive.
Yeah, it looks to me like
trio.
he's got a token thing going on with 2 Ponyback Brigades. He has a Hordling Outburst. He's got a Trumpet Blast, trying to use that to go over the top of things. He's also got a Butcher of the Horde, which is excellent with ways to get a bunch of creatures to sacrifice. And I believe we have that Butcher of the Horde in his hand right now.
Yeah, what does that do? These cards are so new to us, Tom, that we're not going to know them by name. Like, what does Butcher of the Horde do?
So Butcher of the Horde is a 4-mana guy. He's the 3-color card in Bjorn's hand right now. It is, I believe, a 5/4. It had a number of different powers.
It is a 5/4. I can see that. Yeah.
All right. So you can sacrifice a creature to give it, I believe, haste, double strike, or regenerate it.
That sounds like a powerful magic card
does a bunch of different things.
You just listed off 3 powerful abilities.
I will say that was one of the more challenging cards to figure out how to get onto Magic Online, because choosing one of 3 different things while an ability resolves is something we hadn't had to figure out before.
Oh, interesting.
Vigilance, lifelink, or haste is what it does.
Okay. And that's all for a 4-mana spell? Wow.
Yeah. Although it won't be coming down on turn 4, it looks like.
Yeah, he's going to need a source of untapped black mana to do that. Now, his opponent, Tom Ross, he is on Sultai. Yeah. Now, he's got off to a decent start here. He went Highland Game into a morph, and he's just going to battle with both of them right into the other morph. Now, we know that Bjorn knows that if he wants to trade that morph, at least he can trade or not lose his own morph in combat with the amount of mana that Tom had there. But he doesn't. He just takes the damage, and a 3rd morph hits the battlefield here. And this one for Tom Ross.
That's an impressive morph that Tom Ross is probably going to be building his game around if things go a little sideways here and he can't stay on the attack. That is 1,000 wins, which is it's Mahabharati Jinn sized. It's a flyer. Oh. It's a 5/6 flyer. It's very big.
I'm already impressed.
Yeah, and when it turns face up, it returns all tapped creatures to their owner's hands. So that is and now it is going to be debilitatingly injured and will not be returning anything to anybody's hand now.
Wow, he picked the right one too, didn't he?
Certainly did.
Jeez. Well, so we'll take a look at 1,000 Wins here. That is a nice bomb rare. I will be playing that every time I see it in a booster draft, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And I love the decision to play the debilitating injury on the 2nd morph. Often someone will play their 1st morph as the one that they're willing to lose. You just end up trading it or whatever, and the ones that come later are often more precious. So I think that was a smart play on Bjorn's part.
I like that. I like that play quite a bit. And we see there's a War-Named Aspirant.
War-Named Aspirant, yeah. This is a 2/1 creature with raid. It gets a +1/+1 counter.
So 3/2 for 2, I like that.
Yeah, one thing that made me happy about this deck list, there is a High Sentinels of Arasheen in here. That is an Abzan card that gets bigger for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. I believe we haven't drawn it yet, but the War-Named Aspirant is one of the ways to get extra +1/+1 counters on your things in Mardu, which is kind of hilarious. So
here's a Smoke Teller now for Tom Ross. It is a 2/2 for 2 mana, so a Grizzly Bear, as we say, although this one happens to be a Healing Shaman. And as you can see,
Yeah,
you can look at your opponent's face-down card. So if he doesn't have anything else to do with his mana here, and I don't think he does, he's actually going to get to peek at that morph and see what's going on over there.
Do we know what that is?
We did when he cast it, but
okay,
it was a while ago, Tom, and I can barely keep up with these new card names.
I guess we're just as much in the dark as Tom Ross is.
Indeed.
Just about no longer to be.
We'll see if Tom can use that ability, though. I have to say that card seems pretty solid on its own, just as a 2/2 for 2.
Yeah, I find that I very much like having something to do on turn 2 because everybody has something to do on turn 3. Just getting a turn ahead with being on the board, I like a lot.
Yeah, especially it matches up nicely against morphs as well. If you want to trade or attack into one, you've only spent 2 mana. They spent 3.
Oh, those poor sad 3-color cards.
Mardu Charm.
Yeah, so that's a Horde Ambusher. That is one of the cycle of morphs that you can turn face up by revealing a card of that color. So what just happened here is that Bjorn had to show off that he has his Mardu Charm in hand that he can't cast. So Tom Ross now knows about that. Although...
But it does mean the Smoke Teller doesn't get to block this turn thanks to the morph ability there from the Horde Ambusher, and in they come. So 5 more damage, excuse me, hitting Tom Ross, dropping him down to 14.
Yeah. That seems like a tough attack to make, given how far ahead Tom Ross is on the damage race here. Although that is exactly the kind of attack that the 1,000 Winds that is now in the graveyard would have been excellent against. If Tom can get Bjorn to try to play this game with the 1,000 Winds around, I don't know. If I'm Bjorn, I don't think I'd be willing to play a game that started to look like this if I know that there's 1,000 Winds around for game 2, because you could just end up picking up all your guys and that race is over.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Bjorn because he wants to try to be the aggressor. His deck is clearly made to be in that role, but unfortunately in this game he's not. He is behind.
Well, I think the way that Bjorn might want to play his deck is to more go with a combo-like direction. He has a lot of cards that make tokens. He's got a Trumpet Blast in his main deck. He also has a Rush of Battle in his sideboard, which gives all creatures you control +2/+1, and your warriors gain lifelink.
Oh, wow.
In this case, I think what I'd be trying to do is I'd be trying to use my Pony Brack Brigade, which makes a bunch of creature tokens. I'd be trying to use the Hordling Outburst I have, and just create combo finishes. Because Tom Ross's deck, although we haven't seen so many of these cards, it is set up to go long with delve things and just play more impressive stuff. And having ways out of a game that has gone wrong, I think is going to be really valuable for Bjorn if he can
Speaking of
get that far.
Games that have gone wrong, I think we're viewing one right now here.
I think we are.
He is getting kind of ran over here. The right of the Serpent took down his 3/2 creature, left Tom with even a random snake token. And the follow-up play here is Mardu Hateblade. And that is a 1/1, and it can gain Death Touch, so not a particularly aggressive creature here. We'll trade off for something.
If he had more of his colors, I think that card might be a little stronger, but as it is here, this is not great. So we saw the right of the Serpent kill the Warname Aspirant. Funny about interactions here, the right of the Serpent is supposed to be, it has this ability where you get a snake if you killed something with a +1/+1 counter, which is supposed to be good against Outlast, but of course we picked up the one raid card that has a +1/+1 counter on it, and now we have a snake.
Also, we have Bjorn Andreasen down to just 1 life. He battled with his Ambusher here,
and now we've got a Necropolis Fiend from Tom Ross. This is a giant Delve Flyer that also has the ability to kill things by removing cards out of your graveyard. I don't see this game going on much longer. We can play a Butcher of the Horde here, and he can sacrifice this Horde Ambusher to give it lifelink, but I still think this is probably not going well.
It is an interesting play, though.
Well, what is... I think we had a concession, maybe.
There might have been a concession, though it's interesting that it's not actually showing up that way for us.
Oh, no, he was looking at something.
Could have been looking at his sideboard.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to double check what you have in your deck. So yeah, we're still going here. All right, so here he is. Butcher of the Horde makes a last-minute appearance. You said it. Sacrifice another creature. Butcher of the Horde gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Haste until end of turn. Lifelink seems pretty nice here, especially because he can actually get a block with Horde Ambusher and even block the Necropolis Fiend.
Can he block with the Horde Ambusher? Can you bring up what that does there?
Oh, he actually can't. That'll trigger first, right?
Yeah, that triggers first,
Yeah,
and
I forgot
we take
about
one
that.
damage. If we were at,
You're right.
if Bjorn were at 2, then we could get a block out of it, but that is not where we are right now.
No. Now, that does still leave him alive, at least as the board sits,
Sure does.
which is interesting. But you're right. He cannot make the mistake of blocking with the Horde
You got me?
Ambusher. It's funny because it doesn't seem like much of a drawback, but here it's pretty devastating.
We're in the one situation where it's just crippling. Although what's funny is that with that Butcher of the Horde, Tom Ross doesn't look to me like he has very good attacks.
No.
Although, sitting with that Necropolis Fiend, there are a ton of cards in... Oh, what is this?
That's an interesting attack. He's going to attack with his 2/2, prompting an immediate block.
So, we probably just gain 5 here, right?
Yeah, we gain 5, but now the Necropolis Fiend has 2 food in the graveyard to throw at the Butcher, which is going to take 2 here. So it can finish it off.
Yep.
And now there's 2 cards in the yard, and the Fiend is now going to be able to finish off the Butcher, and that's going to leave a 2-turn clock on the battlefield here for Tom Ross. So
Yeah.
we're going to need something pretty special from Bjorn here if he is going to win this game.
Oh, that's crushing.
What did he draw?
Oh, no, that's not what that was. I thought he drew the hilarious creature that is, you lose 4 life when it enters the battlefield unless raid.
Yeah.
But that's not what it was. What we drew was an enchantment that gives all of Bjorn's creatures +1/+0, which is not going to be impressive when he doesn't have any creatures. Also, the Mardu Skull Hunter in Bjorn's hand enters the battlefield tapped. So
For maximum awkwardness. So
Yeah.
what about the Mardu Charm? Can that affect the board in a meaningful way here?
it can make 2 soldier tokens, and then it gives them first strike until end of turn, which doesn't actually help.
No, that doesn't help.
I don't have
Does it
the
do 4
mode.
damage as well?
I think it might.
That's also awkwardly
Also not quite enough.
Yeah.
This is just a match of being one off.
Luckily for Bjorn, Tom Ross has flooded a bit here. He's just drawn a few lands in the late game, but he's way ahead on board.
Yeah, 4 damage to target creature or duress. Oh, this,
Now remember, Tom knows about the Mardu Charm.
he does.
That was from way, way back when it was revealed to the Morph, so he doesn't even send in his snake.
That snake would quickly get eaten by first striking tokens.
So can Bjorn find a removal spell for the Necropolis Fiend? He needs it now. And
No,
this
we
makes
drew a
3
Hordling
tokens.
Outburst, which is 3 1/1 tokens on the ground that cannot block a Necropolis Fiend.
And that's going to prompt a concession, so Tom Ross is going to win our first round here as players go to sideboarding. So what do you make of this matchup? What do you think how does this going to play out if Bjorn's going to win it?
I think if Bjorn's going to win this, he's going to need to ride the token angle. Tom has a lot of cards that are very good when the game goes late, and in particular, he has 2 Sidisi's pets, which when I started looking at the deck list, it's the 1/4 lifelink morph.
For 1 and a black.
For 1 and a black. I'm not normally a huge fan of that card, but I think it's exactly what he needs in this matchup, because it's going to give him the time that he needs to get to his more powerful late game cards. Like that Necropolis Fiend that we just saw, the 1,000 Winds that ended up getting killed, these are cards that are going to make it tough if the game goes long for Bjorn to win. And
Yeah, Sidisi's pet pretty good against a token plan, it turns out.
it is, although between Trumpet Blast, the Raider spoils that we just saw get stuck in Bjorn's hand, admittedly, and potentially a Rush of Battle out of the sideboard, that's a lot of ways to turn a lot of tokens into a serious threat that I think could get over a Sidisi's pet.
Okay. Now, if Tom wins, it's just about getting to the late game?
I think so. I'm not sure about the Treasure Cruise that's in Tom Ross's deck here. That's 7 and a blue, draw 3 cards with Delve, although we appear to be right back into a game here.
Oh, we've been doing some cruising today already, Tom.
Sure.
We are we're all aboard on that one.
I love the card, I just don't love the card when you get to a point in some matchups where if you can cast a Treasure Cruise and untap, it didn't matter what card you just played, like you were probably okay.
Well, Rashad always tells me there's only one thing better than winning.
Is that playing a Morph on turn 3?
No, it's winning more.
Oh, okay. Well, we just had a morph on turn 3.
I like that.
Oh, that Highland game that Tom Ross just drew, that's a dagger. He really wanted to play that last turn.
He'll be pretty happy, though, to get it in front of that morph, I'm sure.
Probably will.
He's got another play lined up here. He's
Yeah,
just going to kill the morph immediately. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Debilitating Injury is going to take it down, and we're going to reveal that that is a Ponyback Brigade. So even if it wasn't going to get turn face up anytime soon.
Yeah, that's seriously bad news for Bjorn, because that source of tokens is, at least if I were Bjorn, that's what my game plan would be. And now, well,
he's got a Trumpet Blast in his hand.
He sure does.
Up here, so that makes that card a lot worse as well.
Yeah, and here we just lost 4 life from our Bellowing Saddle Brute because the Ponyback Brigade got killed.
Yeah. So nice play from Tom Ross there, though I will
For
say,
sure.
Bjorn with a 4/5 on the battlefield, that's bigger than most things that you can do, including that Sultai Flare, which is also quite a nice card, too.
Yeah, it's pretty strong, but the Bellowing Saddle Brute's going to get over it. Bjorn has some powerful stuff in his hand. That's an Arc Lightning there, too.
Oh, yeah. Arc Lightning will do nice work against Highland Game when that comes down. Maybe even kill a morph as well.
Depends on whether Tom decides to morph his 3-color card there. I believe that is an Abomination of Gadul, which is one of the morph.
Wow, that was a great turn. Did you see that from Bjorn? He played Mardu Warshrieker. That adds the 3 mana to his mana pool, and then he used it to cast a Warname Aspirant, and he had gotten an attack, so it's a 3/2. So nothing like adding 6 power to your board in one turn.
It's definitely good. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough against this 3/4 and whatever Tom ends up playing here.
It is a bad matchup to have a 3/4 against a 3/3 and a 3/2, unfortunately, for Bjorn.
And my guess is that what we're about to see is a Hooting Mandrills out of Tom Ross. So it costs 6, but it's got Delve. He doesn't go that way, it looks like.
I guess play the Highland Game.
Oh, if this is a Highland Game and a morphed Abomination, that's not going to go well for Tom. Oh, it's a morphed Glacial Stalker instead.
Wow, still, we mentioned this play a minute ago. Now all of a sudden the Arc Lightning in Bjorn's hand is looking real nice.
Yes, yes it is. That has to be what happens this turn, right?
I know that personally I could never resist giving up a straight 2-for-1 when my opponent's tapped out like that. That morph could be anything. Like
sure
he could untap, play an island, play 1,000 Winds, and you're just like, well.
Yeah, no, I think the morph's got to go.
Yeah, you got to shut the door on that once you can. Now the question is, does that open up any additional tax? And it kind of looks like it doesn't.
It doesn't look like it does, although this is still a very mana efficient turn for Bjorn. So he gets to cast the Arc Lightning, he gets to cast the Mardu Hateblade, and he gets to leave a swamp open for the Mardu Hateblade so that even if Tom Ross wanted to crash back, he couldn't.
Nice. Yeah, and the Hateblade can actually start attacking through the Sultai Flare at some point. I mean, sure it's not a ton of damage, but...
No, every point's going to count in this game.
It adds up.
The Trumpet Blast in Bjorn's hand is the game plan here. If he's going to win, it's going to be with a big attack fueled by +2/+0 to all of his guys.
Okay. Oh, interesting, Bjorn.
Oh,
so he actually wants to try to leverage... He doesn't care about the Highland Game, right? He wants to kill the Morph and the Sultai Flare with his Arc Lightning, and he's actually willing to just throw away his Mardu Warshrieker to try to get that job done.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, does Tom Ross sniff this out? I mean...
And if he does he care?
Right.
If I'm... Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, this is exactly the same play that I'd make. So at this point, I actually don't like this attack very much. If my game plan is Trumpet Blast, I wouldn't want to be throwing away a creature on board.
Yeah.
But it depends on how all in he is right now, at least in his head, on that being the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think his thinking is, well, my Mardu Warshrieker's not doing anything to get through that Sultai Flare on its own.
Sure.
So I might as well get rid of it and use it to help get rid of the Flare, and he does.
Yeah.
So a nice sequence there. The Glacial Stalker is going to have to be relegated to the side to the graveyard here.
Sure.
Ooh.
Oh, there's the treasure cruise we were
Let's
just
start
talking
counting.
about.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, we could do it.
I think he can wait a few turns, but yeah, he could do it now if he really felt like he needed 3 cards. And
I think the Necropolis Fiend coming down soon is too important. My guess is that we won't see We won't see the treasure cruise for a little while here. So yeah, Tom decides that he just wants a 4/4 instead.
Make a Hooting Mandrills. This is going to
makes
do
a
a
lot of
great job
sense.
of shoring up the board state here. He can double block if he wants. He can use it to eat the War Name Aspirant.
Yeah, this is one of the dangers of treasure cruise in a deck where you might be playing against someone faster, because Tom is happy to just trade his cards off and get things into his graveyard so he can play more Delve cards. But even then, you still eventually do run out of things in your graveyard to help your 8-mana Delve spells work out the way you want.
Interesting. So the War Name Aspirant is hitting the red zone here.
That's interesting. I wonder if Tom's willing to... Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wants to take out the big guy.
Yep.
I think I would have been tempted to try to snap off the 3/2.
I would have been tempted as well. It's going to be interesting because Bjorn now has to decide if he wants to fire off the Trumpet Blast. That would get in for extra damage. He'd get in for
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8 damage, and also it would take down both of the creatures that are blocking.
Although if you're Tom at this point and you've decided that you are almost certainly winning the game if the game goes long, this is absolutely the safest play you could make.
Yes.
So
He's even going to gain 2 life from the Highland game.
in the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
at least on the board, it's not even going to die.
That's true.
It'll be interesting to see whether or not we Trumpet Blast here. I kind of think that casting the Trumpet Blast here is close to conceding the game, because otherwise you're just not going to get past anything in the long run.
Yeah, taking your opponent from 16 to 8 sounds nice, but when you have really no reasonable follow-up,
Yeah.
I guess he could just hope that Tom is on lands.
Right.
Even then, he's hitting for 4 a turn. I guess it does add up pretty quickly. Nope, he's just going to let that go and play the Skull Hunter post-combat. So since the raid has been triggered, let me get that up on the preview for you
Yeah,
there.
so Tom Ross is going to have to discard a card here, and my guess is that we're going to see that Treasure Cruise go away, and then we're going to see the Necropolis Fiend in play next turn.
I can't imagine he discards the cruise. Have you read what it does?
I have. It draws 3 cards.
Don't do it, Tom. No, it's gone. The cruise has left,
Yeah, but
and you missed it, Tom Ross.
well, the thing about it, too, is that once that Necropolis Fiend is in play, Tom's got way better things to do with cards in his graveyard than cast Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, he certainly does.
We even get the 1 extra life dagger here out of the land.
You only have big dudes in your deck.
Yeah, this looks very good for Tom Ross now, I think.
Is this good? 4, 5 flying delve, and it can
Yeah.
start eating creatures once a few more cards get back in the graveyard there. But he
I'm a-
has shored up this board state nicely as Tom Ross, and
It's interesting how few ways Tom is playing to load up his graveyard with cards. Because I know right now this Necropolis Fiend is pretty scary looking, but its triggered ability, its activation is not really
it's
having
not
much
active,
food.
Yeah. 4 or 5 flyers usually do a good job of blocking though, so he's got
They're
his
okay.
board state pretty nicely
Yeah.
sussed out. Now the question is, does Bjorn want to jam with the squad here and, you know,
Well-
maybe try to bait Tom into blocking? It's just the problem is that Tom just has such good blocks where he can not risk his Necropolis Fiend.
Yeah, so the thing that's exciting about this, though, is that unless Tom draws some ways to load up his graveyard, Bjorn actually has drawn some of his ways out of this, because it looks to me like his hand is an Act of Treason and a Trumpet Blast.
Yes.
If we can get a 6th mana, that could lead to a pretty exciting turn. If we can take the Necropolis Fiend, we can cast a Trumpet Blast, and all of a sudden there's a lot of damage coming through.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plus 5. Wow, 18 he could hit for.
That could be a very big turn.
I think that is good. It does have to be his game plan. Maybe he hopes that Tom Ross slips up a little and tries to get in an attack somewhere that, you know, maybe was a little ambitious or something.
Sure. And props to Bjorn on this. That Act of Treason came in out of the sideboard, it looks like. And when you're playing against a Necropolis Fiend and 1,000 Winds, that is definitely the kind of card you want. Yeah, Tom's on something in the sweat here. He gets to play his Abomination of Gadul that's sitting in his hand face up next turn, which is going to be good. That's going to be problematic. But it does mean that things are going to be tough for Tom, at least in terms of getting attacks in.
It's a pretty safe attack here, right?
It's safe. It's
I know it has some risk because it makes his trumpet blast worse, but is Tom really blocking here? Wow, he
absolutely.
does. Snaps it off. Why would he block there?
Well, I think Tom knows that the only way that he's going to lose is a combo finish, and they all need little guys on the other side of the board.
Also, this puts a card in his yard, so
no.
now he can kill the Mardu Skull Hunter. Oh no, was that 1,000 wins
That's
off the top?
wins. That's probably just going face up.
Well, but wait a minute. If he plays it face up, doesn't he lose here? There's no tapped creatures.
Well, he loses only
if he draws a land?
If Bjorn draws the 6th land.
Oh, man.
See, that's the thing is, I mean, after the Mardu Hateblade gets blocked, oh no, we missed. Yeah,
now, how much can he get in here for here, though? He can get in for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
live
close,
draw to a land.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power, though, that there is that if you've got a bunch of creatures out, it's really hard to set up attacks that work against one of these decks if they have enough creatures out. And
he could still be live here, though, right? Like, he plays his 3/3 flying delve creature there and hopes that Tom just says, well, I'll just hit you with my 1,000 wins and leave back my other guy.
Yeah, the problem is that we've got another 3/4 flyer waiting in the wings here.
And also a Highland game sitting in the graveyard that can actually kill. Like,
yeah,
Skull Hunter dies to that.
It sure does. If Tom draws a 7th untapped land, this game is going to be, I think, essentially over, because he can play his Abomination of Gadul, use the Necropolis Fiend to kill the Skull Hunter, and I think that'll be tough. Looks like the active treason is happening now. Well, this turn is actually going to be very good for Bjorn. It's probably not good enough, but it definitely swings.
He gets to play the 3/3 flying delve and the act, is that
I think that's what's happening here. I can get some things done.
Oh, just needed
not
that
drawing
land.
the 6th land is pretty rough. Is he tossing all of his cards out of the graveyard there?
Is that a tell?
The Sultai Scavenger?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it looks like he could have left one.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he has much in the. Oh, he's. Oh no, I'm not sure what's.
There we go.
Yep. So those red highlights just say, hey, you can exile this to delve if you want. So, leaving the Ponyback Brigade.
Just because it's pretty.
No, it's still reaching its hand out of the graveyard toward the Trumpet Blast, sadly.
Yeah, that was a tough hit that Bjorn took in the early stages.
I can't blame him now for playing it face down, though, because he was going to miss 3 otherwise, and, of course, as we've seen, he hasn't found a 6th land to play it face up, so...
Right. Yeah, it would still be in his hand.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be good. Is the active treason's not coming?
No, it's not going to come. He's going to wait. I mean, he can still make that play. Like, let's say that Ross has nothing and says, I'll attack you with 1,000 wins.
Sure.
You know, he can still at least, I don't know if it'll be 15 because it depends on how Tom attacks and if he kills something in response and stuff, but the 3/3 flyer added plus the Trumpet Blast could get pretty good. There's 1,000 wins attack.
Okay. So we might still be live here? So what happens if we see Bjorn draw his 6th land?
Well, that's the question, because now the Necropolis Fiend is no longer live as a removal spell. So,
oh wow,
a 3/4 flying. Did he hit it?
I want to point out the greediness of what Tom Ross just did. I never have the discipline to not play my tapped lands, even if there are extra cards in hand. Because that's one life he doesn't have.
Yeah, that's true. Here we go.
He could be at 16, but yeah.
And I think we're doing the no math alpha here, but in they come.
Well, the thing is that I believe all of his creatures are going to successfully trade with the Abomination of Gadul.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, no way.
Is it 15? Oh, that's amazing.
Is it 15? Oh, it's because he didn't play that land.
So greedy.
And Tom Gross, look at him, look at that land.
Highlighting that Thornwood
He's
Falls.
like, maybe I should have played this.
Uh-huh, and I bet that's what they're laughing about right there.
That is brutal.
Could he have blocked any differently there?
Yes, he could have blocked a 4-5 instead of the 3-3 flyer, but he was thinking a little longer term, put his 3-4 in front of the 3-3 because it just eats it.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I do want to say, Tom Ross played that game pretty intelligently, because it looks to me like he was thinking about the possibility of exactly what just happened the whole time. It was just that he didn't give himself the 1 life extra to survive when it actually happened.
I don't know. He left himself open to it a couple of turns before as well, like where he attacked, you know, for 4.
It felt to me like he was playing around the trumpet blast, but not the active treason trumpet blast.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to give someone credit for being on exactly those 2 cards.
Yeah, and I want to remind, of course, everybody at home, these cards are just as new to these players as they are to us. So
well, they're not new to me.
Yeah, us.
Sure.
But you know, I mean, this
All
is a
you
thing
people.
where, you people. This is a thing where, like, the presence of a card like Active Treason in a set is something that if you're a hardcore limited player, you earmark that very early. The first time that happens to you, you're like, aha. And then for the rest of your time, you always keep that in mind. Like, could I lose to Active Treason?
Sure. And I do want to say, I'm very pleased to see Bjorn sideboard in that Active Treason. That is why he won that game there.
Yeah, that was cool.
Looks like we have reasonable mana draws from both players. Although we have two raid 2-drops and no planes for the Mardu Hateblade on Bjorn's side, which is unfortunate. Well, this is an excellent hand for Tom Ross. He gets to play a Highland game on 2. He probably gets to Debilitating Injury something right there on the spot, which puts more cards in his graveyard for the Hooting Mandrills.
Does he just offer the trade here?
Those guys are like equally awkward.
I think I would sit back.
Just sit back.
Yeah, whenever I have an Abomination, no, not an Abomination of Goodwill, the Necropolis Fiend in my hand, I just want to trade, although he goes for it. This is interesting.
Does he have a morph? Yes.
Yeah, this makes sense, actually, because this way he can force Bjorn, if he wants to attack, to spend a black mana on the Mardu Hateblade, which, if all Bjorn had were 3s, that would slow him down a turn, which I think you can give someone credit for if they start with 2 tap lands and don't play on something on 2.
Yeah, and a Hateblade. And as it turns out, Bjorn actually has a pretty nice one here. He can attack, trade, play a land, and then he can play the Skull Hunter.
Yeah, I think I would be blocking just because I have the Delve things in my hand, but this is going to get a little awkward for Tom, I think. If Bjorn chooses to play the Skull Hunter, that's going to be a little bit annoying for Tom's hand.
No, you said you wanted cards in your graveyard.
Well,
Here's an
not
invitation.
this way. You
not,
want to
not
be
like
trading.
this. Not like this, says Tom Lapilli.
Not like this, yeah. Although, instead, Bjorn is going to play the eminently debilitating, injuryable Warname Aspirant here.
Yeah. I like that play from Bjorn, though. Higher power gets the beats going.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can make an argument that the Skull Hunter gets better later in the game.
Yep.
After your opponent's kind of cleared out their lands and maybe has some of their most powerful stuff left.
If he gets to snipe that Necropolis Fiend, that would be a coup. I bet we're not going to get quite that far, but...
That would be ridiculous.
That would be ridiculous.
Sultai Ascendancy, though, is what Tom Ross is going to play, so that Fiend is going to be online sooner than later thanks to Sultai Ascendancy.
Yes, it is.
How good do you think that card is?
It's hard for me to say. That's one of the cards in the set that I don't actually know. I took it very highly. Oh, this turn that's interesting.
Wow, that's aggressive.
It's aggressive, but that Sultai Ascendancy means that Tom Ross's draws are going to be excellent for the rest of the game, and his Delve cards are going to have tons of food. So Bjorn is seriously on a clock. He knows it. He wants to get some damage in. I think that is exactly the play he has to make here.
And here's the Skull Hunter post-combat. It's going to get something good.
Yeah, this is getting
a
an excellent
removal
card.
spell or a powerful creature.
Yeah, Sultai Ascendancy is on the list for me of rares that I'm taking very highly right now because I don't have enough experience with them.
Gotcha.
Because I need to learn more about how that card works before I can have a real opinion. It was good for me this past Wednesday, but...
It's an interesting card. You know, it doesn't affect the board directly when you play it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take a turn off to play it. It's pretty tough to cast.
Yes, but
you got to figure going long, it's going to get you enough advantage.
Going long is pretty excellent.
And here we go.
So the real dream...
Oh, he discarded the Regent.
Oh, that's ballsy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't have the second black, so maybe he just figures
Oh,
I'm
wow,
not going to be able to
this-
cast it forever.
This Sidisi's pet is pretty excellent.
Oh, wow, it sure is.
Why did you put the necro?
Well, at this point, I think Tom just wants to see the Warname Aspirant go because the Warname Aspirant sneaks right past the Sidisi's pet. Oh, this turn is very good because we get to Debilitating Injury and we get to Hooting Mandrills.
Oh,
This is very,
wow,
very
this
strong.
is going to show off the power of Delve here. Look at this.
Yeah. So the crazy thing that I might be thinking about doing if I'm Tom, I don't attack, and I just try to throw that morph. Okay, I guess we could be racing. Sultai Ascendancy.
He is ahead in the damage
yeah,
race,
he's ahead.
interestingly, yeah.
Sultai Ascendancy is very good going long, so I'm very willing to play a little bit more defensively when I have it, although he did just toss his Necropolis Fiend into the graveyard, so...
He's
That's
got to
something.
feel like the race is in hand for him, though. He's ahead on the damage race. He has a better board state, and he's got Sidisi's pet to help offset any big
Sure.
hits in life. Decent draw there for Bjorn, though.
Yeah, this... Can he attack, play the Raid mana-making guy, and Sultai Scavenger? I think he...
Let's
He
see, so that's
can't.
3,
No, he's one
4,
short.
5, 6. I think he can.
Has he played a land yet?
I don't think he has.
If he hasn't played a land yet, then
Yeah, I think
this
he
is
can
gonna
play
be a
that
nice
mountain
turn.
and do that.
Because there's no way that Tom is blocking here.
No, one damage
Absolutely
is
no
not
way.
worth it.
I think Tom has put himself on enough of a back foot here that Bjorn has a way into this game. I don't know if that's going to take him all the way to a victory, but I feel like he's got a foothold now.
Needs one more. There we go.
Yep.
All right, so he gets to add 6 power and toughness, including 3/3 flyer here.
Yeah,
That was a nice turn for Bjorn.
this is pretty good.
These have been
Oh,
great
look,
games.
look at
between
Tom
these
with
two.
the stretch, think, and back scratch.
Oh, yeah.
He's not liking what he sees there.
So what he's doing is he's looking at the top 2 cards of his library, and he can choose to put them either into his graveyard or his library or any combination. He can put one in his yard, one on top, both in the yard, whatever he wants to do here.
Mm-hmm.
He actually doesn't have that much mana to work with.
No, not at all.
It's a little awkward if he has to start putting lands on top.
For sure. Yeah, the one thing in Tom's deck that I don't see, that I often see in Sultai decks that have worked for me, is ways to get a lot of cards all at once into my graveyard. So I'm noticing that the Necropolis, oh, that was a good draw.
Sultai Charm.
The Necropolis Fiend is just, it's not quite as strong if you're not playing things like Scout the Territory or whatever. Certainly that makes your deck a little bit more combo-y, and it's possible that this direction is better for Sealed maybe, but I've seen some pretty degenerate draft decks.
Now, what does Sultai Charm do again? It has a...
The mode that's relevant to us here is destroy target monocolored creature, I believe.
You can take out this flyer if he wants.
I'm pretty sure that he wants to. Yep. Destroy target monocolored creature.
Right, and then the other ones are you can destroy an artifact or enchantment, or you can draw 2 cards and discard a card.
Yep. Very versatile card.
Take a look at it here. Those charms look very powerful.
They also look so much nicer with bullets.
They do.
Yes.
That was a good idea.
Yes. Oh boy. Okay, that's a lean in with the looking at the 2 cards, so maybe he's a little happier this time. Looks like the Sultai Charm is what he found last turn.
Yeah, this time he's already put 1 card in the yard, which is a Dismal Backwater, so that's the dual land here for blue and black.
Yeah.
And he kept the other one.
This suggests to me that, oh right, okay, so his morph, if I recall correctly, is
It's the 3/4
it's
flyer?
the 3/4 flyer, which he can now turn face up.
Right, he needed that land.
Yeah. Now he wants it to be a surprise, which makes some sense. My guess is what's going to happen here if there are no attacks is that he will turn it face up. On his turn, he'll attack with it, and then he'll play the Sidisi's pet.
Looks like you've got this one sketched out pretty nicely here, Tom Lapilius. I think that's exactly what's happening. So, unmorph Abomination of Gudul.
Yeah, this was an excellent turn cycle for Tom.
And you get to loot as well when you hit with that Abomination.
Sure do. I'm not sure what I would do with what's in Tom's hand on this turn, but we don't have to decide yet if he's willing to attack with his Abomination.
You got to figure like he should here, right? I mean, it looks like he's stabilized.
Yeah.
His opponent didn't attack him last turn. He's
Even-
got a couple of creatures he can play.
Even if he draws a blank, he can still go Morph and Smoke Teller.
Yeah, and he didn't draw blank. In
Oh,
fact,
I bet he tosses the Smoke Teller
Yeah.
and wants the Highland game
I think
here.
so too.
Or no.
Smoke Teller doesn't. It does have one extra toughness.
It does.
Doesn't seem relevant currently.
I like 2 extra life, but that's just me. But I think this is going to work out well for him either way.
Yeah, I mean it's a marginal decision, and he's in a good spot here. Now, what is that Bjorn just drew there? Flying.
Oh,
High
that is the High
Sentinels?
Sentinels of Arashin,
Okay.
which right now is also a 3/4 flyer.
Is this the Outlast?
Yeah, this.
Oh, this is that rare. Look at that card.
Oh, all of a sudden this got turned on its head a little bit.
It certainly did. So, if you look closely at the second ability there, 3 and a white, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That's just do that. That isn't
Yeah.
Outlast where you have to tap it and sorcery speed and all this stuff. That's just start throwing counters around.
Yeah. That means that next turn Bjorn gets to play his 8th land.
Yeah.
And he's got a way he has a way to win a long game now, which is something he did not have before.
Wow, what a great draw from Bjorn. Now,
That was really good.
Tom Ross probably just put 2 cards into the yard because he drew an island, and I don't think he wants an island right now.
My
so
guess is no. Can we scroll
Wow.
down and see
what's in the yard? Yeah, sure. Yeah, Swamp Forest.
Swamp Forest.
Still, you can see Sultai Ascendancy doing work, as if things were normal, he would have drawn 3 lands in a row.
Yeah.
And that would be really bad here.
I think this is the turn face up, make something not be able to block.
Correct. He doesn't have a red card to reveal,
Yeah.
so he may just play it as a morph anyway.
Yeah.
It's a slightly better creature as a morph just because it doesn't have that drawback.
Yep. Wow.
And in comes the team. Now, there's 2 ways I think that Bjorn can take this. He can start getting aggressive like this, or if he wants, he can just sort of sit back, use up his 8 mana, untap, and have like a real ground force.
I think he's got to go for the more aggressive plan here. Just playing against a Sultai Ascendancy and potentially an extra loot a turn with the Abomination of Gudul, you got to go. Like,
Time to go. It's
Yeah.
go time. All right. So double block. This guy, which is just a 3/3.
yeah, this means that one of those counters is going to have to be quote unquote wasted on a creature that's about to die, which is definitely smart.
Man, this High Sentinels of Arashin is insane.
Yeah.
It gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a counter on it, so he's going to be able to spread those out as well. And that thing is going to close out the game very quickly in the air just on its own.
Yeah, he's probably going to put a +1/+1 counter on one of his other guys.
Yeah, it's
at this
another
point.
damage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unless he values having the 2/2 in play more, then I'll play a morph after combat probably, but I think I'd go for the counter.
5 damage. Take that, Tom Ross. You drop down to 12.
Yeah.
You lose a creature here.
Yeah, how do you feel about that ultimate price now, huh?
No kidding.
Theoretically, the Abomination of Gudul could have sat on the Sultai Scavenger as a 3/4 on top of a 3/3.
Sidisi's Pet hits the graveyard as well
Yeah,
as
2 more.
Swamp.
Oh, there's a Sagu Archer, but that,
Is that too late?
I think it might be too late here, as the High Sentinels of Arashin is just going to get far too big.
So Sagu Archer has reach.
Yeah.
And does it also have Outlast? Or is
no,
that
it's
just
a
the
morph.
reach card? Okay, it's
It's a
the
morph.
morph with reach, right.
Yep.
And no choice here for Tom Ross. If he's going to win this
Yeah.
game, he realizes the long game does not favor him, so he just needs to start attacking with creatures.
Time for beatdowns. The Murder Skull Hunter gets to block for free.
He finds a flare.
I think we're
Sultai
going to lose
flare.
yeah,
Lose the island.
lose the island.
the Flayer's a nice blocker on the ground and a good attacker as well. He did get Bjorn down to 6 here.
Yeah, and look at how quickly the tables turned here. We went from Tom winning the long game and Bjorn needing to do something, just the reverse in one card. Although the length of the long game certainly shrank here.
It certainly did. And Bjorn looking to maybe even finish off Tom. I don't think he has the tools to quite do that. He could play an unmorph to make sure that that thing can't block.
Yeah.
Actually, he can't unmorph. Sorry, no, he still doesn't have an additional red card in his hand, so that can't happen.
Oh wow, did we just go back to a stalled board state again?
I can't imagine. If we did, it's probably for a turn.
Sure.
But yeah, this did get a little interesting.
This got messy.
I think Bjorn's probably going to be priced into playing the morph and taking one counter turn off, but then he can put one on, untap, put a whole bunch more. This is going to get interesting. The question is, can Tom Ross, maybe he finds a removal spell from that Sultai Ascendancy in that time frame.
Also, the Sultai Ascendancy has left him with only 12 cards in his deck. So that's also a piece of pressure on Tom to close things out more quickly.
Like if they were all just to sort of trade off their board states and say, okay, let's just start over, then all of a sudden Tom needs to find a win in a closer time frame than
so there were games that I won this past Wednesday with a Sultai deck with Sultai Ascendancy where I had maybe 1-2 cards left in my library at the point where I won.
Wow. He's actually lining up an attack here. This is risky business.
Maybe. Tom does not have very good blocks here, I don't think. If he blocks with the Sultai Flare, I think you just put 2 counters on the Martyr Skull Hunter and snap it off. And then Tom still doesn't have very good attacks unless he finds a removal spell.
Yep.
And
we found an additional land to leave up so he can activate the
Hate Blade.
Mardu Hate Blade as well.
Yep.
Okay, but instead Tom just takes it and drops to 10. So what does he find here? This Sultai Ascendancy is just digging him to an answer, and he hasn't found one yet.
Yeah.
The Archer could be good for one chump block, though.
For sure. It's not nothing. 4 mana is a lot, but it looks like
Highland Game
Highland
hits
Game
the
down.
graveyard.
The other card was kept.
Wow, and it's a Woolly Loxodon. But that's not going to be the card he plays this turn.
Yeah.
He's only got 5 mana still. And he can't attack, so now that attack from Bjorn looks pretty nice.
So the counter goes on the morph.
Which of course then pumps the High Sentinels as well.
Oh my.
What did he just draw?
I believe that we just saw the morph that, when it's turned face up, casts Active Treason.
Oh no. We saw that from Mr. Scotty Mac earlier. He ambitiously tried it on his opponent's turn, but
that's
new set. So we but then in the next game he did it on his turn, and he won the game with it. So doesn't take long.
I'm not sure that that can happen this turn, but my guess is what will happen here is that when the High Sentinels gets big enough to kill on one attack, we just take the reach guy and send it on over.
Okay. Yeah, one interesting thing here, and I don't know if Bjorn has the time. He's under 2 minutes left on his clock, but he could have revealed it to flip up the other morph and prevent something from blocking for a turn and then cast it. He decided not to.
Maybe, I wonder if the play could have been...
He's got to hurry, though. He's got a minute and a half.
Oh, good. Yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of time to think.
No.
Yeah, the play potentially could have been reveal it to make one of the flyers not block, play and steal the other thing that can block a flyer, and then you're in the clear. But
and then you're in the clear. I don't think it's quite lethal, though. It might have been. All right, but he's got the setup for next turn, especially if he draws a red card, because then he can prevent one thing from blocking, steal another thing.
Yeah.
Right now, Tom Ross only on 5 lands, so that Woolly Loxodon, he finds a land with Sultai Ascendancy, but he's just going to play it as a morph.
Right, so the thing that's interesting now is Tom has to be a lot more conservative about what he's willing to take, given that he only has 8 turns left to play this game.
And that's not even going to be a factor here, Tom. I think that Bjorn is going to get clocked before that matters.
That is true.
So it's interesting, and Tom doesn't have any reasonable attacks. It has to just pass the turn. And now all of a sudden we're getting into like a day 9 situation where it's like, how many actions per minute can your hands do here, Bjorn?
Oh my. Okay.
Wow.
That's a good one. I think it's time to just...
I think we just move in here.
We're shoving.
Yeah, Trumpet Blast revealed. So this is going to turn over the Horde Ambusher, which is going to make it block.
This is almost certainly game.
Yeah, so it wasn't only a red card. It was also one that gets in a lot of extra damage. Yeah, and he can do both, right?
Yeah, now he's going to steal the Abomination of Gadul, and that's 2 flyers.
Is he going to pull it out with under 1 minute left on his clock against Tom Ross, Bjorn Andreasen, looking to make the finals?
Yeah, a minute is quite a long time in this particular situation. I've certainly been in my share of Magic Online time sweats where it's like, you have the way out and you have 45 seconds to pull it off, and it's scary, but in the end it always, they never time out when you want them to. So.
That's what Tom Ross was just thinking, I'm sure. And in comes the team. So Tom has to see if he can make any blocks. I don't think he can.
Yeah, and here's exactly the combo finish that it takes Bjorn's deck to beat Tom's.
Yeah, High Sentinel of Erishin absolutely taking over this board state. Once he drew it, the pendulum swung firmly back in Bjorn's direction, and it has not swung back since. Nice draw there to steal a creature, make something not block, and even get an extra damage here with Trumpet Blast. And F6 has been pushed, and Bjorn says, is it enough? It is indeed, -1,
wow.
And he is going to advance to the finals. Congratulations to Bjorn. So Bjorn just beat Paul Cheon and Tom Ross to make the finals here. Like, arguably the 2 strongest players on that team, and he just mowed right through them with his Mardu deck.
He sure did.
Putting him in the finals. Now, who is he going to play against? It's either going to be Sean Plott or Scott McCallum. We don't know yet. We're going to be bringing you coverage of their semifinal match and then, of course, the finals after that. Whew.
That was impressive.
Are these things playing out roughly how you kind of envisioned them?
At least for me, they're certainly playing out the way that they played out for us. It's been so long since we actually did the envisioning.
Yeah, I know. I'm making you rewind a lot back in time here, but
yeah, no,
wow.
That was cool.
All right, so I think we're going to bring in Sean Main here. Rashad, we got an interview. All right, we'll let them get set up, and then while that's happening, we'll swap out. Tom, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We appreciate you having in the booth and your insight on all this stuff. That was great. And it looks like we're ready to head down to the feature match area where James Turner is sitting with our first finalist, Bjorn Andreasen.
Welcome back to the winner's circle, Bjorn. Up 2 games going into the finals.
Yeah.
How do you feel that last match went?
That was an awesome game. I'm still shaking, like it was really nervous, and the clock was ticking, and and you had to draw like some certain cards, and like I draw my Threatened Goblin, and then I draw my Trumpet Blast like for the second time, and like yeah, that was intense. And then when I revealed my 2/2 guy in the end, I misclicked, so I should have made his lifelink not to block, because if he would gain that extra life, I actually hadn't it counted because the clock was so fast there. So I just attack with everything and just play Trumpet Blast and hope it goes well.
So that was 2 times with the Trumpet Blast that won you the game. Yeah. So is it safe to say that Trumpet Blast standout card in your deck right now?
Yes, that's MVP card. Yeah, definitely.
And how do you feel about the format sort of overall? Now you're 2 games in, you've been doing a little bit of side drafting and sealed with the other guys here while you guys wait for the rounds. What are your initial impressions?
It's an awesome, really fun format. Like from what I've seen, it's like compared to like M15 or something, it's miles between them, I think. And here's like so many triggered abilities, and uncertain moments when like what card is this? I mean, there's so much more thought into the game. And I mean, also I love the clan thing, just with like I did with the Ravnica when you choose guilds, and here we have clans, so that's also very fun, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think we have a couple more minutes here while they get the set up here. Why don't you, for the people at home, let people know who you are and what you do and what you do back home?
Yeah. My name is Björn, and I'm from Sweden. So I'm running this website at home called svenskamagic.com, which I've been doing for 15 years. So I also run a couple of other websites. I'm a web designer. That's my profession. So I like doing websites, magic websites on my free time. So I've done this mtgquiz.com, and I've also been involved with the Scandinavian Open circuit that we are doing in Sweden and Denmark and Norway. Kind of a Star City Games Open thing, but we're trying to do it in Sweden and our neighbor countries. Yeah, I'm 33, got two sons and a wife at home waiting for me. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. Good luck in the finals, and we'll send it back to the booth.
Hey guys, welcome back to the booth.